Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida recently vetoed funding for a sports team in apparent retaliation for a tweet about gun control. So now the Florida Republican signed his new state's new budget on Thursday for the coming fiscal year. According to NPR's Tampa Bay outlet, Governor Ron DeSantis signed a record $109.9 billion budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, but vetoed some very interesting vetoes. For one, including funding for a Pasco sports complex and an H. Lee Moffitt Cancer Center facility in Pasco County. Among other items vetoed were funds to build the Tampa Bay Rays $35 million practice facility. Interesting. Outkick reported DeSantis blocking the allocation after the team tweeted about a recent mass shootings across the country. Here's Bobby Burak of Outkick writing, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis plans to veto a $35 million legislation for a Pasco County facility that's earmarked for the Tampa Bay Rays spring training. DeSantis' decision is in response to the Rays politicizing recent shootings in Buffalo and Uvalde ahead of a matchup with the Yankees in May. The report cited a tweet from the team from May 26 that asked for donations to Everytown for gun safety. I want to show you that here. So it says that we all deserve to be safe in schools, grocery stores, places of worship, our neighborhoods, houses in America. The most recent mass shootings in Buffalo and Uvalde have shaken us to the core. The Tampa Bay Rays are mourning these heartbreaking tragedies that took the lives of innocent children and adults. This cannot become normal. We cannot become numb. We cannot look the other way. We know that if nothing changes, nothing changes. They go on, of course, to commit to giving $50,000 to Everytown for gun safety, and said that we understand that no single organization can solve this crisis alone, but working together, we can make an impact. We invite you to join us and do what you can, when you can, where you can, because our lives depend on it. Now, this declaration, of course, was enough to infuriate Governor DeSantis, who was using his powers of government to basically punish political enemies that don't agree with him. Farron, what are your thoughts?
As a political enemy that does not agree with my governor, Ron DeSantis, I'm worried. Yeah, I don't want his gazpacho police coming for me. Here's the thing. First of all, just to get this out of the way, I don't think we as taxpayers should be building sports stadiums for privately owned teams. That's me.
Fair enough. I do agree with that.
Yeah. Second point, what DeSantis is doing here, there was a time in this country, I guess it's past now, but that's illegal. That is absolutely an abuse of power, which is something that people in the past in this country have been prosecuted for. So, I don't care if the Tampa Bay Rays don't get $35 million. It's a privately owned team. If you want a practice facility, you pay for it. Don't make me pay for it. That's my tax dollars here. But the reason he did it for is absolutely should be criminal. Just like with Disney, like, okay, they don't get special. I don't care if Disney gets special privileges. I do care about you abusing your power to punish your enemies. That is the problem. It's not that, oh, poor Disney, poor Tampa Bay Rays. They're going to be fine. We're getting screwed. And he is doing things that probably even 10 years ago would have meant the end of somebody's political career. But here it's just another Friday for us. You and I cover these kinds of things every day. And for the length of time that we have both been doing this, think about the stories you originally covered on this show. Think about the outrages and the things of that nature that wouldn't even be a blip on the radar today.
Right.
I mean, I've been doing this since the Bush administration. And hell, George W. Bush is back up to like a 65% approval rating. Everybody looks back like, oh, things weren't so bad.
War
back
criminal.
then. Right. Those were some of the worst years imaginable. But because everything today is just so much more outrageous, none of it ever gets covered. And that's why we end up with people like DeSantis who can engage in these egregious abuses of power because nobody gets held accountable. And it actually kind of goes back to the Bush administration. Maybe if we'd thrown a couple people in jail when Eric Holder became attorney general, maybe if he hadn't said, I want to look forward instead of backwards, maybe we
Ugh.
wouldn't have all these extremists today who understand that, hell, I can do anything and get away with it. Why wouldn't I take advantage of that? That's the mentality today.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, what's really dangerous about Ron DeSantis is the fact that he is using this fake right-wing populism, right? And I call it fake populism because it doesn't actually help the people, but it has the appearance of, I'm taking on corporations. And we've seen this, and that's what, again, makes him incredibly dangerous. He pretends to be in the side of everyday people while pushing in a very extreme ideology. And again, if you want to go after corporations, you and I, we're here for it. Okay.
Yeah.
Again, Disney has had numerous issues with not paying enough to their employees. They've had issues with, mistreatment, what have you, right? That's nothing that these so-called right-wing populists will ever go after these companies for. It is always happens to be the culture war issues. It's this company went too woke, or this company decided to speak out against, against unfettered gun ownership, which happens to go against the interests of my donors and, of course, some of my most extreme voters, the people who put me in power in the first place. And so we've got to crush them. We've got to come down on them, oftentimes also at the expense of the taxpayer. I think it was the Disney deal or the Disney issue that actually landed on the taxpayer in Florida to end up having to pay more in taxes because Disney, they got, a $2 billion essentially handout. So Disney's like, you're going to take away my responsibility to pay for these utilities and things like that. Great. Sure. Oh, punish me harder, DeSantis, please.
Well, and you know what's funny about it too is everybody say like, oh, no, because now Disney's going to have to, they're not going to get these special privileges. The counties are going to determine what happens. Do you know how much easier it is for a multi-billion-dollar corporation to buy a county commission, to buy 3 or 4 seats on there? Mm-hmm. It's a lot easier and a lot cheaper than buying an entire state government. Disney's making out like a bandit here.
Yep.
But here's another thing I want to propose then. Okay, if we're looking at DeSantis and he can punish his political enemies and get away with it, every Democratic governor in this country immediately needs to say, okay, y'all want to do this? Let's do it. Exxon, you've been covering up climate change for decades. I am revoking your license to operate in my state. You can no longer be in California. You can't be in New York. You can't be in Wisconsin. I'm coming after you because you disagree with me on settled science. Now, we could do it. They could do it, not we. If you and I could do it, we would have done it.
Yeah, I know, right?
These governors, these Democratic governors, guys, they're going full extremist. What the hell are y'all doing? Do something. Retaliate in any way you can. And I know that sounds dirty, but we're actually talking about corporations that are doing evil things. They're destroying the planet. They're destroying people's lives. People are dying. Go after Big Pharma. They're in Democratic controlled states. Go after these oil companies that are operating in your states. Go after the price gougers. Y'all could do it. You're literally go after Wall Street. Democratic controlled state, right? Plenty we could do with them. They won't do it. They won't do it because they get the money too.
Yeah, exactly. They just heard everything that you said, and this was a reaction.
No.
Not going to do it. No. You go after my corporate donors. No, never. And again, that goes back to how dangerous Ron DeSantis is because he's one of the few that is actually willing to go after corporations, and that will give him the appearance of being a populist. And I think that's an image that he's been trying to cultivate, perhaps to run for a higher office. And that's another thing that's incredibly dangerous because, I mean, you look at what he's doing now with punishing political enemies. Even if we agree that, they shouldn't, these companies shouldn't get taxpayer funding to begin with. But again, on the reasons that he's going after these companies, I mean, you could see him in a higher office with more power doing the same thing on a much larger scale, going after, for example, news organizations or maybe reporting negative stories. And so that's pretty disturbing, and that's pretty dangerous.
Well, and we also know that he already has an enemies list that has a lot
Yeah.
of good leftist reporters here in the state of Florida on it. They have dossiers essentially on
Mm-hmm.
some of these people, like Thomas Kennedy, Grant Stern. So they already want. He already wants to do what you're suggesting. I was a
Yeah.
little disappointed, not gonna lie. Apparently, I am not on this enemies list yet, so I gotta work.
You
a
gotta
little
work harder.
harder. I know.
Yep.
I think that's a failure of me, and I accept that failure. I will promise you, next time he updates that enemies list, I want to be on it. I really truly do. And his spokesperson, Christina Pushaw, ended up following me on Twitter a couple months ago,
Ooh.
and then
Oh.
I noticed like 2 days later she was unfollowing me. So I think she may have made a mistake at some point.
Yeah.
But so hey,
Definitely a mistake.
that shows that she was aware of me. So maybe we get that updated list. Maybe I'm on the top. Maybe I need to look over my shoulder a little bit more frequently. But it's terrifying, and I'm saying that as somebody not just a Florida resident, but also with Matt Gaetz as my congressman. So it sucks.
I don't know how you do it, man. I just don't know. Oof.
I wish I had lots of Pizza Hut. I guess I'll do that tonight, and that'll own them